Okay, yeah, we can start.
And just for attendance, who do we have on the call? Anyone?
Nobody's on the call. Sorry, one more second. Is there somebody coming in?
No, not yet.
Okay, so nobody's on the call. And so an absent today, we have John Ryan, Phil, Caroline, Sam, Joe, Hang. That's it. Everybody else is present.
Okay, so we do have a quorum. Awesome. Well, call this meeting in order, everyone. Happy New Year. It's 4:02. Thanks for your time. We're gonna start with looking at the minutes. This is from November 12th meeting. We'll look at those minutes and I would entertain a motion to approve when you guys are ready. Make any changes? Seems like such a long time. Yeah,
I move we approve.
all right, happy first, and Jerry second. Minutes are approved. Next up, we'll jump to public comment. There's no one on the call. Is anyone in the room? Anyone here for public comment? No? Okay. Y'all haven't taken a look at the agenda so far. If there's any changes, or we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
But we're-
He was sick today and he was who requested on the board meeting procedures to be on the agenda. So he did ask if that could be moved just next month.
So now it gives us time to study it more.
We don't need a motion on that, right? That's just been moved.
Yeah, you just approve.
As amended,
Okay.
Just motion to approve as amended.
so moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. Old business. All right, Ms. James.
Okay. I'll start, but then Aaron, others, and so we had the economic vitality team met with the last month's meeting, requesting that the event closure goes to that committee to talk about. And so I included the outline in the item. They are the recommendations that came from that. Talked with, we had Lieutenant Cantwell with police there, and this also includes kind of the overview of the process that they use, just to kind of give a better understanding for it. And then basically that there's not a lot of shaving off time. There's some, but not much. I'll let y'all go ahead.
There was some, Lieutenant Cantwell came out and talked to Economic Vitality, and we asked a bunch of questions for an hour and just kind of got an idea of how they go about it. And my goal was to look for something tangible that we could take to city council and say, we want to change this, we want to suggest this. So there's basically three areas that the police are concerned with, like three tasks that they do to close down the street. The first is establishment, which is like communicating to everybody that this is gonna go down. They put the signs up and et cetera. Communication to the public, moving barricades, and then towing and actually clearing the street. Those are like the three pillars that the police are involved with shutting things down. It really seems like they do a pretty good job of establishment, of communicating to the public. I think like everybody, I hear about it a lot. We see it if they're on the street. The barricades, they kind of know a good solution for it. There's these kind of expensive ones that are on wheels, and everybody says we should get those. And if we do, it would save a ton of time, but they're expensive. Right now, they're using the water barricades. They have to transport them to the place, fill them on site, and then kind of angle them and then empty them and move them out of here. And then towing is kind of where I felt personally that there was room for movement there. The police don't like towing people. They said that they want to avoid it if they can. The Economic Vitality Board kind of felt like there was a lot of consideration for the offenders of towing. There's basically, when they decide to shut it down, half an hour before they start, they'll issue tickets for 30 minutes, and then they'll wait. And anybody that's still after that, they say, okay, go, and then they have a fleet tow them. We kind of felt that half hour was unnecessary. We said, just tow them. The problem with that is that it's usually like tourists that get caught. It seems like they do a pretty good job of establishment. Most of the locals know about this sort of thing. So the people that get got are tourists. And then that can be super inconvenient on your vacation or whatever. They tend to be vocal. They tend to be active on like the internet and stuff like that. So it's not good optics for the police to tow people, but it's just coming down to the execution of the thing and then literally impacting more business time, at least there, that we could take from these offenders that we're giving them and give it back to the vendors and things like that. We established for business, from a business perspective, 12 to 2 is fairly significant. If we're looking to close down in the afternoon, if it could start at 2, that would really be a gift to businesses, especially like food or tourism based industries. They kind of slow down from 2 to 4. That's like the ideal window to close down the street, seems like. But those are the 3 kind of main things that the police are concerned with. The things that they do to close down a street. The towing, and besides just clearing it out, they work with, like he said, 5 to 6 wrecker independent contractors. And when you accept a contract from the city, it's kind of expressed that Main Street coverage will be part of your business with them. But it's not always rewarding for these independent contractors. If we call them out and there's nobody to tow, then they've set aside this time and now they're not making any money and they're just sitting around waiting. When they get a phone call on I-26, if that happens, they're gonna go take that phone call on I-26. And then if suddenly they have a need, we don't have a truck. They might call 2 or 3 at that time, but again, you risk it not being profitable for the contractors. So the police do give some consideration to them. It kind of is baked into the contract that this is part of it. So they aren't harshly enforcing that, you know? But I see potential there to make it competitive for these independent contractors. It should be this thing that they want to do. And I think if we aggressively start towing people, that would kind of guarantee that they've got work to do when they show up. Again, taking that consideration away from the offenders and giving it to, the people that live here, the people that are closing down the streets.
What's the possibility of, on a day of an event where you need people off the street, on the parking meters where everybody registers and you put a sign up, you do it and they still.
Put signs on every kiosk, on the mobile app,
Wow.
it notifies as a pop-up for everyone. And then for big events, which we didn't for Halloween, but we put sandwich boards on at least 4 or 5 corners of the street that say
That's
where you can go.
There's like.
that's a shame. Shame on those people then.
So that was a lot of the conversation
Yeah.
was that, the police are, worried about the tow companies losing money and not having them there. They're driving people to their cars, so they're
Mhm.
leaving the street because they feel bad that their car's been towed. And it was kind of the feeling that, where are we in this? Like,
Yeah.
where are the merchants on Main
Mhm.
Street in this? So like Aaron was saying, it was kind of proposed that instead of having 1 tow company or 2 tow companies, like you have 5 cars, tow trucks ready. And then at 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock or whatever it is, they go.
Getting to work.
And then as they're being put on the truck, you tag it, you put a ticket on it and it's done.
One question I had is he kept saying, we'll have them sit there for 2 hours. Well, if the shutdown time is 2 and we're gonna tow at 2:30, just have them be there at 2,
2:30,
not for 2
yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
So I didn't
I
understand
didn't quite
that.
get what
I
he
think
meant by that.
that was about whenever, so they tow them to the city lot. And then somebody comes back to where they were parked and their car's not there and it's an out of town person and they don't know where to go. But the tow company has to stay where the car is. And so then that prevents them from being able to
take it
drop
up.
it and leave and go to another.
Yeah, there was a whole catch
Yeah.
22 about, does the tow company take it to their lot or do they take these cars to a central location that's easy to get to from Main Street? And if they, the tow companies are different places or various distances from downtown, so that's not really feasible. So if they're in a central location, it's not as easy because the police don't want to get involved with taking the money for the towing. The tow company takes the money, so then they either have to have the truck that towed it there with it, or have two of their employees taken up.
There's liability, if they park it at a police station and it gets broken into, who pays for that?
Is there any way to call for like volunteers
We,
That was something that they had on there, yeah.
we recommended that.
being on the street saying, welcome to town, but just no?
Get the hell out.
To farm that out to the individual vendors, like the parking spaces right in front of your place, which like Caroline's already policing it anyway. Just put a cone out there at, street closes at 3, put a cone
Or
out there.
tell
at 2,
people
and
when
say,
they
"Hey,
come in your business.
Yeah,
Which I'm
there's
sure
also
some of
the
you-
businesses, I think, of Main Street have to be a lot more on top of it also. When because a customer comes walking in and it's getting to that time, like whenever we have a street shut down, I have people in there, I
Warn 'em."
walk to each table and say, are you parked on Main Street? If you are, you're gonna have to move your car. 99% of them know that they don't have to, they don't. But I think a lot of the retailers, businesses, everybody up and down Main Street, it should be I shouldn't say all on us, but we should also have a part in it. Like, if we know our customers are gonna get towed, there's no reason why we shouldn't like warn them when they walk in the door.
Mhm.
It is something that the downtown establishments should be doing.
It's a good practice.
Some of them are good about it.
Some of them are, and some of them are not.
Because we've had some who have restaurants and stuff who are like, that's their own fault for not following the rules. Here we got.
Signs, there's, there's.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot, but I mean,
Yeah.
Times.
coming from a business where I have signs everywhere and nobody reads any of them, not even the lawyers. Lindsay's one of them. I think no matter how many signs we put out, which is great, we should have as much sign as possible because we want to make sure we can put our own ass as far as like, accountability on all of this. But at the end of the day, like when you walk into my building and I know we're shutting that street down, I'm gonna let you know when you walk in, like, hey, if you're parked out there, you may want to move. And I direct them straight to like the garage.
I like
Park
that.
out there, you can stay on Main Street all you want.
I like that because it's something that we can do. We can be active and it's free.
Yeah.
But what can we do? How can we take that to city council and say, let's save time? Like, we want to shave off some of the street closure time. And establishment's part of it, but like, we did ask a bunch of questions, like, you guys do this, like, the city does a lot to communicate street closures and.
It really
it's Pretty
seems like-
active about improving it too.
I mean,
Friends of
my
Henderson.
view of the conversation was that in the end, the people who and have been warned, whether it's by a sign or by a business owner or someone who works there, and they know that they're in a spot, if they end up getting towed, it's on them.
I mean, that's true, yes.
It's on them. And so I would recommend that even we talked about volunteers in a parking lot to hold them because we don't want to upset the people. I know we're a small town and we still should have that small town kind of feel and hospitality. But, most towns, when you get towed, the tow truck takes it to their lot and you have to go get your car. And I think that as the downtown advisory board, we should be on the side of the merchants. And there are a lot of merchants who are, have felt the effect of closing down from 12 to 3 or whatever it is, 12, to clear cars for a 1 hour period. And we could have it done from 2 to 3, be efficient about it. I mean, you're a violator, you're violating the rules, you get a ticket, you gotta get your car.
But
That's kind of my view on it.
Is there, just asking on the other side of that as a business, with it being like, if there's more of your customers being towed, is that a concern?
It's not for me.
I don't personally, it's a concern. It's not like I'm towing,
Yeah.
they're not gonna get upset with me.
But there's.
I mean, they might complain to me about it like they do everything else in this town,
Yeah.
but they're not gonna complain to me of like, why did you have me towed? So I mean, I don't think it hurts me in that sense. It obviously
And
does
it's
come down more on the
being
city.
downtown, just as a thought on
It's
that.
not my part.
Yeah, these events a handful of times a year. Lieutenant Cantwell said, the last one, he was very pleased that there were 2, is that what he said?
Mhm.
2 cars.
Yeah.
And the high end is like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I was wondering what the average was. Well, I mean, we have our volunteer for Friends of Downtown, or why can't we put out, here's an opportunity, we need help? You don't think you'd have some people volunteer to go around and just say, just to let you know, pick a certain time,
I
like,
mean, it just would be depending on. Like, if that's what we decide we want to do, we can put that out there, but there's other, a lot of the events aren't ours. We could still do it, but that doesn't necessarily.
Makes me a little nervous to put volunteers in that position, just hearing from the parking folks and the interactions they have with people.
Yeah.
oh, they get.
Some enjoy it.
That was kind of an unspoken thing that I felt from the officer as well, that, they don't want to cause a scene on Main Street before a fun event and just like be screaming at a visitor and like.
Volunteers. No, I, the other way around.
The other way around, yeah.
And the point that he made he kept on repeating was that their first priority is to secure the area. And the time to fill the barriers with water, that takes a long time to do. And then after they do that, then it seems that they start going into towing after that.
Well.
So if they have
Yeah.
is that what my mistake?
So they, when it's a full street closure, basically what they do is they'll do like a soft closure, which is closing the inbound lanes, which is like, to me, that's the best visual warning of anything, because they have to people have to physically drive around a barricade, and they still can, which I think is fine. And then they close this side of the avenues. And so then as they close the inbound lanes, that's when they start ticketing. And then, so that 30 minutes between ticketing and towing, that's a time to shave off. And because it's Public Works do the barricades, so it's two different departments that are doing them. It might shave off some time because the new barricades we have can be moved a little easier to close that perimeter, but it's kind of some simultaneous stuff going on with those. So, because like the police aren't filling the water with it, Public Works is doing that. So there's kind of a staging.
Stage it nearby on.
Of like each phase of what's going on.
That's even more reason to streamline it then.
But it sounds like they're active about that, but the real solution, the real push is to push city council to pay for these, the rolling barricades or the bollards. That would significantly reduce time for everything. But we all know that that's costly and can't really do anything about that right now.
Yeah, and there's some logistics with the ones that we've got that we've still kind of got to figure out a little bit with the new ones are much more safe and easier to maneuver once they're set up, but we still have, that's neither here nor there in this conversation, but a little bit to figure out.
To push for that, because that sounds like it would save a lot of time.
Yeah, and it's much safer because we don't want to be a city that gets in the news for having something bad.
The police made it clear that, out of those three priorities, theirs has to be public safety, and we all want it to stay that way. It needs to be, their priority.
And one of the last points that were talked about was having some sort of responsibility on the tow companies to actually be there, whether it's because the officer was saying that they have a call list and every time they use a tow company, it goes to the bottom and the next person comes up. Well, if they call for tow companies to be at a street closure and only 2 show up, then maybe they get put on a B list. Or maybe the city comes up with some incentive, as long as you're there, you get $100 check from the city or whatever it is, just to help supplement
Guarantee that they
time
get
to
it.
guarantee
Yeah.
that they're there. But I think the most important thing, correct me if I'm wrong, but the most important thing we talked about, or most poignant thing that we could do, was to have tow trucks there,
Seems like that's the fad trend.
knock them out. An hour, go down the street.
Maybe just one at the beginning of the street. We will tow you with
There you
a
go.
sign.
Because like it was mentioned, they're not towing 4 dozen cars.
Mhm.
So to have 3 tow trucks take 12 cars, or not even 12, 3 to 8. That's 2 runs. That's, it's not that long. And it also was kind of brought up that some of the locals that hang out, they see them coming. And they may be at the dugout and be like, oh, I got another half an hour, and they don't move to the last minute, rather than clearing it out so vendors can get in there as soon as possible.
The move they get towed.
That was the point, is just tell them, like, if they get towed, then it'll set a precedent.
You've been told many times, whether it be a people or signage, if you see this tow truck driving up and down the street and you witness that, like, that's on you if you did not get out and move your car. Like, you were fully aware this was gonna happen.
Seems like the precedence now is on signage and letting people know rather than. the
Yeah.
actual-
Do the signs say you have to be off the street at a?
Yes, there's no parking,
Day
it's like
before.
2 o'clock, towing enforced. So as far as like having something for them, really, I guess the policy itself falls into how police interact with the tow company. And it sounded to me when we had a meeting the other day that the guarantee or incentive probably is gonna be the only way, because I mean, they're business, they're gonna
Mhm.
make whatever, like, so if they can, if they're just on call, but they don't have a guarantee, they're gonna take a tow
If we
from
do
wreck.
it, if we do it earlier, it'll be more competitive, that we can, guarantee there's work. If we kind of change our perspective on it, like, hey, there's opportunity right now, don't get these cars, instead of, hey, let's give these guys some time,
Mhm.
But that would be a nice kind of carrot sort of way to incentivize everybody to make it competitive, make it worth their while, a built-in kind of guarantee for them.
If you change the time that towing started versus the barricades and stuff like that, I mean, the towing is one thing, barricades is a whole different thing, because it's different people, different job. If the barricades are just going on at whatever time that goes, and you just speed up the time on the towing. If you had a tow company come out there and pull one car and somebody see it go, you're probably gonna get everybody else's attention and they're gonna move their cars. That tow company could just take it to their lot and they get their $150 and be done with it.
I know it's like every tow company is a little different, but I think it's within North Carolina statute that if you're parked in violation and it's properly signed and all that stuff, and the record shows up and you like run out to your car, you still have to pay.
Yeah, I think it's.
To get the record.
Once
Once they touch it.
Yeah,
There is a drop charge that you.
right.
have to pay.
Yeah.
And like, so, I mean, obviously I'm not, we've never had a closure on Seventh Avenue, so. But as far as Main Street, from the comments that we've heard like in November about like, kind of like some people targeting or like kind of being aware of the situation and taking advantage of the time. If they see a truck out there at 108, whatever, starting to tow somebody, people are not gonna be looking out the windows from the dugout. They're gonna be going out to their vehicle.
There's lights going. it's
So,
back up a lot.
so no half an hour grace window. It's like, you get one out there and I think that would be effective.
So as far as items for recommendation then from y'all, start towing immediately when it says no towing, no parking after, like it says no parking after 1. They start towing immediately at 1 rather than ticketing.
Yeah.
And then incentives for guarantee for tow.
And the incentives don't have to be monetary, they can just be a list.
Better on the rotation type of thing. And I don't know how all that necessarily works.
I'd be curious about the legality of us doing that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how so that's something that, even, these are all recommendations, it is.
When I have cars towed places that cars ain't supposed to be, the tow truck comes and picks them up and takes them to his yard, wherever that might be. It might be from Hendersonville to Fletcher to Hendersonville or wherever, and you just gotta go find that. You do have to at least provide them, here's the phone number of the company that has towed you. So
Yeah, that's a North Carolina statute. You cannot legally tow someone without a phone number or an address of how they get their car back.
Yeah.
Or a paper slip or something, some record of, hey,
but then
for
you,
your car.
one tow company could be just coming back and forth, taking it, or if he knows he's got 5 cars, he calls the same. Most of them have more than one truck,
Right.
we'll get the other one, but that way you're not waiting.
I think they have to call police, or they probably see a police in the street.
Well, I'm
But
also
I mean, it's
wondering about the new towing ordinance that we
It
put
doesn't,
in.
it doesn't.
So does it help, right?
No, we don't worry about that, but
Someone did ask if the city could buy their own record,
that's that.
so it's to their own centralized location.
I would say that I don't like the idea of towing people farther than like to their tow place, because if they are people from out of town and they got kind of tow yard in like Fletcher,
It'll be all over social media.
like that, in my personal opinion on that.
And the police-
We should buy our own tow truck. John will love that idea.
The police didn't like doing that either, and they said what they did to circumvent that was they used to park the cars at William Street or something.
Yeah, and I think they.
And then the people, they say, oh, your car's down there, and then they would just drive off and the tow company doesn't get any money that way either.
No, I think the tow would stay with the car. I think
They would have to.
Which slowed
Yeah.
down the towing
Yeah.
process. Because if someone's speeding and they don't realize towing, and then they come out 45 minutes later and the car's gone, that wrecker's still waiting by their car for them to finally get to it.
Yes, so unless there's a way that like the
Most
city,
cities don't do that. They just- Unless there's an.
yeah, that'd have to be a legal question, but that would be the way around. It would be if there's some type of, if we can legally do it, that the city pays the tow company and then doesn't release the car.
Why don't we tell everyone who parks on Main Street, put your home address, your spheres, and your phone number.
I did look around in a car window one time and found,
Is that something that could, that the city could do, is like have an impound lot? And then the people come to pay the city to get their car out. There's a portion that goes to the tow yard and a portion that goes to the city to pay for that person to be there.
Top floor.
We already have an impound lot. don't we?
Yeah, I thought we
The
did.
courthouse?
Sheriff's Department.
Huh?
yeah,
That's county.
That's not county.
There's gonna be legal issues with that.
yeah, that's,
So just.
yeah, but that's something that,
No, there's, or we put a volunteer there. Do we want to put a volunteer in that position? I don't think so, but you know, it'd be better to have
They might
someone
get
that
beat
works
up.
for the city who can handle that.
So if you end up doing something like that.
Like-
I wonder if then we could do an annual contract with a tow.
maybe, I don't know. I don't know
And
how
then
that
we
works.
get around this,
Incentive.
having to call every time you're getting around the incentive, so it's a contract that's awarded
And then
every year.
there's a requirement that says you have to be at.
You're required to be there.
Yeah,
So we'd still be paying them, but like at least then now we get around the legality of us prioritizing one business over another.
Yeah. yeah. Okay,
This would be something that's, you know, they bid on it.
So in the contract, you would have the dates and the times.
Yeah, I mean,
They would know for the year.
And a requirement, like they have to have at least 2 trucks or whatever, yeah.
If that's your business, I sit there and I say, how much does that cost versus waiting for a call on 26?
yeah, because they might still get that guarantee money and then not even have to tow somebody necessarily.
this is true.
So that might be a way to, yeah, okay. So, on the topic of towing, then, so start towing immediately as a recommendation. And then a question of, is there a way we can reduce the tow companies of having to stay by having some kind of contract with the tow companies for a guarantee?
Because ultimately, the recommendation should be to reduce the amount of time it takes to clear the street. From 12 to 3 to 2 to 3.
Yeah, and the only times that they are daytime closures, except for when they're setting up for an event the next day. So when it's an event where it closes the street down and then the event happens that day, midday would be Halloween and Christmas parade.
Well, then maybe I should rephrase that. Instead of having a 3-hour window for a closing, only have a 1-hour window for a closing.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, is that those are the two that seem to be the the beef right now, because they're midday. And we've tried to push back, like Garden Jubilee, Apple Festival, and Arnold Main are the 3 that close in order for vendors to come in and set up. And we pushed Arnold Main back an hour,
What time?
which it didn't happen. I think that they were loading in at 6,
Mhm.
and so we had the street closed at 5, I want to say, or something to that effect. We pushed and then the event didn't happen, but we pushed them, like they kept trying to come in earlier and we said, No, because we've heard it from y'all.
Did the city get any feedback from restaurants that served dinner on that? Did they?
We didn't, it was the.
It was a hurricane, it got canceled.
Well, I mean, in the past, in past nighttime events, do you get a lot of feedback on that?
Not too much because those events, the only three that happen are kind of those standard ones, like people just know.
Yeah.
Prepping for the Apple Festival, no prepping for Garden Jubilee and our Romanian, and that
Okay.
those are events that are worth it, but there may have been, there may be feedback on that otherwise. I know that people just in general don't like that midday closure. Before I move off of towing, is there anything else specifically on towing that we want to add on that?
Did you include the recommendation for the nicer barricades?
Yeah, we can, I've got that as the notes, but we can,
The city's aware of that.
I think that's really the plan.
Yeah.
These ones are to try them out.
yeah.
Yeah, if we could get some sort of like annual contract with one company, I think that would work great. And if we
For towing,
for the towing. And I think if there's a centralized location of where it's brought also, if we could find out legally, if we can do. Where you just have to pay the city to get your car back sort of a thing. If we had a centralized location, it'd make it a lot easier for them to get to their car.
That makes sense.
We're inconveniencing them, but not quite as much.
Yeah.
this is what we currently do.
Yeah.
It's
That's
just,
a good point you made, but at the meeting about, it kind of made me think, does the city know of a company that rents those barriers instead of?
I was just gonna
purchase
say-
them, that we can rent them a dozen times a year rather than
Buying them.
buying them flat?
The other thing is, I don't know what it costs for the city to do everything the city does. But you might be able to find a company that actually would close the street for you and open the street back up for you. The half a dozen times a year, and that way Public Works doesn't have to get all bent out of shape and you don't have to worry about buying barricades they produce and stuff. I mean, these.
the public works time isn't so much of the issue as the towing, because the public works setup, it's gonna be the amount of time. Or they do have it pretty, as far as.
Pretty efficient.
But like they're pretty efficient.
They're active on
that, because it's kind of done like as a simultaneous thing, and so if we shave off half hour to an hour of when no parking is, Public Works, I don't think that's gonna really change.
Yeah, what would they do at that time?
Yeah, even with the different barricades, cause then after it's clear, then the vendors come in. So there's still some kind of soft closures for it. So I don't think that the barricade part is gonna shave off that much time, because the barricades are gonna be set up regardless of if there's cars there or not.
Yeah, imagine the street was clear, it still takes this much time to set up. the
Yeah,
barricades.
yeah, so no matter if there's cars on the street that still haven't worked their way out.
That's how much that takes.
Yeah.
That's how fast they've got that, and it's pretty good at.
Yeah, no, add the new barricades as we get them, that'll help to kind of close them off, but that's not gonna help get cars out
No,
differently. The
I was just
towing,
thinking of renting them because then we could get them in faster.
I'm not sure if they looked at the rental costs on them or not.
Well, so the new barricades, the AST modular, have they been used yet, or we have
The
them?
first time we used them was for Halloween.
Yeah, they're weird looking.
Did they actually stop a vehicle?
But yeah, they're like,
They look like they're
Hardcore.
gonna eat.
Are they like the ones that,
Ones that were in front of the fire department during the hurricane.
I mean, you know, what happened in New Orleans could happen
yeah,
anywhere.
those, they
And-
didn't use those, these are like,
Stop a truck.
like, if a truck drives into it, it like jabs into the pavement and jabs into the bottom of the
So these
vehicle.
ones that New Orleans had, but they hadn't had in
Yes,
place. They have these. So because I'm just
Mhm.
doing the visual on it. It's like a giant piece of steel.
Yeah, it looks almost like bike racks is what. Yeah, and they're assembled in pieces at a time, and we've looked at these for years.
Yeah.
FEMA helped us to be able to
Yeah.
get our first investment on them, hopefully. Moving on real quick on that, the other thing that we didn't talk about as much as far as street closures that came up last year, and I broached the subject with them, but then didn't really go much further, so it might be a council thing, is the parade is the one that's the big beef, Christmas parade.
Oh, because it's at night.
Yeah, and so.
On Saturday.
Because it's on Saturday at night. So last year, right, probably this time of year last year, we had talked about it would be, or what I had heard from y'all was that it would be better for that to be on a Friday night rather than a Saturday night. That may or may not shave off much time as far as when it's closed, but they said that business on a Saturday is much more important than a business on a Friday in December. So that is another thing that could be a recommendation from this group. And if that's something that you're serious about, that probably needs to be as a recommendation. to
I
council.
guess the only thing you could run into. So I'm just trying to think, because
Mhm.
Cole is in the Christmas parade. Is depending on what time it is, people getting out of work and having to get their kids to wherever it is they're supposed to be in this parade, like. Logistically, that sounds like a parental nightmare.
Basketball.
And that's what they had said. That's what the Merchants Association.
And like, there's a lot of kids in the Christmas.
They also use the high school to stage everything.
They do.
And if it's a school day,
Yeah.
Sunday an option? Out of those.
Not for nighttime.
Sunday's the
Sunday,
best.
most businesses are closed on Sunday on Main Street. I think that would be a great time.
From a business perspective, out of those three.
Kids are out late before they have to go
For
to
school night.
And I don't want to move it back to the daytime because it's way better at nighttime.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna be an option.
Weekday, like a Wednesday or a Thursday.
That'd be the same school.
Same
Yeah, I
school
think it's
problems.
getting into the school issue.
Yeah.
Sunday,
What time is the parade over? What time does it even start? Like
so long.
Six.
Six, and I don't think I left until.
I get the whole school thing, cause I'm like, I got kids, you know, but. During the holidays, I mean. We're wide open, we're up late all the time, so I don't know if that, for me particularly, I think the bigger concern with the schools is. School events on that night, like Fridays are big basketball nights, you know?
Got the band.
Where if it's like a Thursday or a Tuesday. You know, families stay up late anyways, but most school activities are not happening. On Tuesdays, Thursdays, there's churches on Wednesday nights, which we may lose people to. But
I mean, we could talk to them about it and maybe they don't do it the first week of December, maybe they do it the second week of December, or like.
But
Because
not, yeah.
The closer we get to the end of break, he's right. I don't really care when my kid goes to bed because
Yeah.
it's a free for all anyways. Cause I don't need to do it Sunday, honestly.
Also with the staging, I don't know how much size you need, but does it have to be at the school? Is that the only close place that you can stage something for that?
It's in the school parking lot, it's in, well,
Bearcat.
Apotheca, it's down Bearcat, it's a whole operation.
And I don't know that we need to get into those logistics. It's just like y'all as the representatives for downtown, like this is something we heard last year and something that we heard again in this whole conversation was the closure and how early it has to be for the parade is a problem. And so I don't know how, if there's a particular direction.
I mean, Sunday night might inspire more businesses to stay open on that Sunday. It may allow them to go to the parade that they normally wouldn't be able to go to. It would definitely not affect their business.
Yeah, I think no matter what night you do it, honestly, I don't think we've learned enough of the downtown here. These people are all gonna complain.
Yeah, sure, but I do think closing.
At night is not as far as like people, which better for who, it's like, it's gonna be great for this person, but then that person gonna be like, well, I don't like it that night.
Yeah.
So I think that's a crapshoot, no matter what you do.
Yeah,
I- Honestly,
If it was
night
during
has
the
to-
daytime, it was like you're closing it down in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Saturday.
I mean, being at night I like, especially for Christmas, I mean, you have your Christmas light, there's a little bit of ambiance to it, it makes sense to do that. And I think if we have the recommendations of what we're doing with street closures here, that could ultimately help with that it no longer makes a difference that you're doing it at night, because you're doing it in a much shorter span of shutting everything down. I understand the concept of, you know, it's the holiday season, Saturday is a great shopping day, but honestly, I mean, I see the amount of people that come through this downtown during the holidays, through the month of December, and it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it's pretty much all week. Yes, Saturday is gonna be one of your bigger days, because 9 times out of 10, the more local tourists that are only like an hour or two away are coming up just for that day, but you're still getting a huge bulk of people. So I don't think if you picked a Friday over a Saturday, just from a business standpoint, is gonna be that much to move the needle on what is better. Especially if we have down pat a much more efficient time-consumed street closure procedure. I think that ultimately fixes everything.
Main Street closed, and it's empty, like people are showing up, which I get, we need time for that. And then a cop comes down and it's still empty. And we're often, I mean, we stay busy because people are getting hot chocolate and stuff, but
Yeah.
we're often looking out the window like, when is this thing starting?
Yeah, and-
How much longer till it goes?
Yeah, and with
And the other thing we could think is time, like, should we move it back an hour, forward an hour? Because if we move it up an hour, it may not affect the afternoon lunch or clothing stores or retail stores, and it may help the PM restaurants for their dinners, that after the parade happens, they all go into there. I don't know, what time, it's 6 to 7:30 now?
something like, I don't know how late it goes.
Way longer than 7:30.
Yeah. Yeah, and with the parade in particular, like, part of it's because you don't see people coming in and setting up stuff, so it feels like it's longer. And then the other part is they have said, police have said that they've had to extend that time out because they have basically every police officer that is on the city of Hendersonville Police on duty, that plus sheriffs in other towns to do all the detour areas. And so they have, like, it's the timing of and getting everyone to the position of where they need to be and getting the street clear. And like, so there, that's where, like, reducing the time for the parade, it might be able to be reduced some, but they're probably gonna still push back on if this towing will be able to, like, just thinking realistically, I don't know how much time they'll shave off, but it's still like, it still might not be what feels difference when it's still an empty street for however much time, just the cat.
Restaurant, like, we're busy when people are active, and our busiest times are 12 to 2 for lunch. But if we're open for dinner, it's 6 to 8, and those are like prime time. It's super hard for me to understate like how much of our money is made in those little windows right there. It's like almost equal to the rest of the day. Probably like on like a slow day in December, it's gonna be like 75% of all the revenue I make on that day. If I'm like Postero and I haven't sold reservations, it's like I might just close on Christmas parade day, you know?
They do.
Yeah,
pretty much.
or they have to book it out and then communicate to everybody, hey, you can't park on the street when you come, you know?
Well, I mean, you could go to every, I mean, I don't have much to say on this because I would defer to the merchants on Main Street with, to have the experience with these closures. But I mean, I'm sure you go to every merchant and get a different opinion on that stuff. Well, this would be better for me. And then it's like,
Yeah, I guess.
you know what, at the end of the day, I would look for guidance from the city as far as logistics and the overall bigger picture of producing this parade. And does it make sense to move it a day? Does it not make sense? You know what I mean? I mean,
Does it?
The other thing we discussed, to your point, with working with the city, is that anything that we kind of discuss, we have to really think about. That's gonna move forward onto 7th Ave.
right.
You know, 4 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is down the road, when that becomes closures for certain items as well, we can transfer this philosophy seamlessly down to that area.
Would it?
Right. I mean, so there's a good example. So let's say on Seventh Avenue, if there was a daytime closure, obviously that would affect my business and other daytime businesses. And if there was a nighttime closure, it would affect the restaurant business, So I think that, I mean, like I said, I don't really want to put that much of an opinion out there because I, again, defer to Main Street merchants on this one, but also from the city standpoint, if it's gonna be more of a struggle to change the date, then,
For the city, it 6.5 dozen. Cause the Merchants Association, they do the parade lineup basically, and then police do all the other stuff. So it's whatever for the city on that. Did you have something all
I
or?
was wondering if y'all have any communication with the merchants organization about timing or. Right, since it is creeping
Yeah.
over 2 hours.
If police had required them to only have a certain number, not to go over that. I'm not sure
Is
what-
that?
Yeah.
The hard part is when something happens, like this past year, there was a huge delay. I don't know what that really was, but we were sitting there for quite a while and nothing was coming by.
Yeah, but they do, because basically the police and talk with the Merchants Association. We do some with the parade, but parade more or less is police. They're the majority of it, just
I
because
feel
it's,
like they could cut a couple people out of it.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
As is that parade.
the Merchants Association. Which,
and is that their recommendation to move it? to
no, they don't want to do it.
They don't.
They want to keep it how it is.
Yeah, they're.
And so if that's something that this board feels strongly about, then that's what needs to be vocalize. If we don't feel strongly about it yet, then, we'll, you know,
Yeah, moving those times, like those two windows are pretty important from my business, but I can't speak for everybody. And I don't know that moving a time would really
yeah.
change the impact that much.
What we heard clearly last year from this board was try to move it Friday, but I'm not sure what I'm hearing from y'all. If we're
We
not,
could just do,
That,
we could just try to establish consensus. You want to go around the room and see who's in favor or who's not in favor of changing it?
Merchants on Main Street that are represented in here.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to hear.
It affect us, because we're.
I'm closed before it even started. In fact, I'm not even open on Saturday, so.
We stay open late for
Affect it
it.
at all.
It doesn't matter if it happens on Friday or Saturday. It's not gonna affect my business personally in
Yeah.
a negative way because hot chocolate and lattes are gonna.
it's the retail.
It's the people who have retail stores that are really being affected by it. Clothing stores, knickknack stores, you know.
Right, but they're not here and you are. So.
You know, and that's the battle that we have is because they're coming to me and other people
Yeah.
complaining about it, but when we ask them to come and represent and speak about it.
Yeah, they complain on Facebook, but they don't ever show up.
so that's.
They know.
That's
Are
what
they open on parade night?
I mean, some of these.
They're on the
businesses
internet.
are, that have complained about like these
What-
closures and the
Majority of the
parades.
people said that when she
But
said.
I mean, I would say a majority of the main street is closed by the time it's starting.
Yeah, I think
Um,
they're just upset about the time leading up.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it's time that it closes and it's not gonna be changed. It's not. It's still gonna be closing at some point midday,
Mhm.
whether it's pushed back a little bit of time or not. So that's that Saturday.
When I
It
think-
sounds like there's a lot of legitimate venting from these merchants who, but the truth is, we're not getting rid of a Christmas parade.
Well, and
It's
that's the other
just,
thing is I'm probably in a lot of a minority of most people on Main Street about this. These are events that we do throughout the year, Christmas parade, all of our festivals.
have for
It's
years.
literally just to create the hallmark vision that we have in this town essentially.
Brings people
Come
back.
here every year because of these things. And how many times do we do this? A handful of times,
Mhm,
out of how many months out of the year?
mhm.
So, yeah, I understand the struggle of like, well, you shut down the street early, so I lost some business that day. There's 364 days out of the year. We do things one time a month at best for what, 4 or 5, maybe what, 6 months tops, I think, something like that.
Mhm.
That is enticing people into this town
Come back again.
and coming back again and again. If they come in for a Christmas parade, chances are they're here for the entire weekend. So we close down what? So they can have a beautiful moment with their family on a really well-lit street. You're still gonna shop on Main Street. You're still gonna eat on Main Street. You're still gonna come back the next year, probably the same weekend. So at the end of the day, I hate to say it, I want the merchants and everybody of downtown to stop complaining about this. It's very.
Probably.
I'll say that this particular complaint did come from people who were on this board. too.
And I understand
That was a,
And I get, and I get their
it
complaint.
did, yeah.
I get their
The
complaint.
concern that came from people on this board was during some of these street closures, the amount of time it takes
Yeah.
to get it.
Oh, yeah, that,
That was the concern.
yeah.
Right, so
And that's what we're working on here.
So I think
Fixing that.
And when you're saying this, right, because there's a couple that come into my shop. The first time they visited the city, I told them about Rhythm and Brews and we saw them at Rhythm and Brews and they liked it so much. They actually bought 2 places and they moved here as their second home and they come into our shop every day. So that happens all the time.
So I think that it sounds to me like this board is ready to make a motion to basically present our recommendations to city council about the event closure recommendations that came initially from Economic Vitality.
For the towing.
The towing, when we talked about the time frame, I think the time thing is gonna be a big game changer right there. I think we should be looking for a motion to from this board to go ahead and submit that as recommendations to city council, so we get the ball rolling on that one. And as far as the Christmas, I mean, we're talking about one event specific. And I totally agree with you. I mean, you know, I think there's a lot of fantastic things to consider when you have the privilege of doing business downtown and being part of a downtown, experience and having your business in a downtown setting. I mean, our street was closed for 9 months, you know what I mean? And it's like, sometimes it's like, this is one day we're talking
Yeah.
about. And I know.
And downtown doesn't close, only the street is being
Right.
closed.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's gonna happen?
Still walks on the
Much
sidewalk.
time going around, not only this room, but also to all the downtown Main Street merchants and you would get different opinions from folks. And I think at the end of the day, I think if it's not, I mean, just leave it the way it is. You know what I mean? And like, you know, it doesn't mean the conversation's over, but I don't think, it doesn't sound like we at this board would have a recommendation to city council to change the date of the Christmas
Yeah.
parade. That's what it sounds
Nobody's
like.
ever gonna have the perfect.
Now, if someone wants to put their hand up and say, no, they believe strongly that we should. I think we're at a point where we can make the motion to send a recommendation to council for the previous items that we talked about that you outlined.
So let's have one motion on the towing recommendations, if we can have that.
Towing recommendations include,
I've got start towing when signs say no parking after time. And then
Contract.
we're figuring out a way of contracting to have a better guarantee with towing.
correct,
Those are the two towing recommendations that I've got.
And find a way to fund the new
Is there a way?
bollards. or-
Okay, and then I can add,
should we have in there
prioritize.
about discussion on where?
Well, that's what I was gonna say, if part of that recommendation is looking into like a more centralized location of bringing the cars to make it easier for these people that come in,
And if that's an impound lot that's run by the city.
if it's possible.
Close or impound location.
Yeah, as opposed to taking
Yeah,
it back
I
to
mean,
the Fletcher shop. or
I agree with that. I mean, and larger cities, I mean, you know, it's survival, right? So you get towed, you get towed. But like, let's say you are like a visitor to our town and you just didn't read the signs because you're 105 years old, whatever.
Yeah.
So, sorry,
He's not.
They visit Henderson.
even young people don't read
Trying to
signs.
figure out how to do the meter, that's why they're not reading it.
5-year-olds, you're paying.
Yeah, So I think that, yeah, if that did happen to an individual to have, you know, a local spot where they could get their vehicle rather, because yeah, some of these tow places, their yards are out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
And currently, that's what they take them to.
okay.
Yeah, so, okay.
So let's do a motion on those towing recommendations.
I would make a motion to recommend them to city council.
I would second.
Matthew, you want to call it? Say all in favor?
Motions.
Oh, yeah, all of
Those in favor?
hands up, I'm
Anybody opposed?
Caroline. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
And does anyone feel strongly enough of having any kind of motion on Christmas parade? Otherwise, we just let it
I
go.
think it's fine where it is.
I think there's no reason why it couldn't come up for discussion in the future, but as far as making a recommendation to council, I don't think it's true.
I would suggest maybe on that fact, maybe we reach out to some more of those city merchants on Main Street and ask them to have an opportunity at a next meeting that they can come and express how they feel about it.
If it really bothers them.
If they show up, then we can have further discussion, but if they
don't.
don't.
Well, and you can remind folks too that, you know, one of the really amazing things about the work that we're doing in this format and making recommendations to council and having the teams making recommendations to this board is that there is an awareness. We're talking about stuff in a pretty common sense approach to where, hey, can we tweak this and make it less of an impact economically? We make small changes, but you know, do we need to make large changes? So the format is here where the discussion is on the table. We have some really intelligent, thoughtful conversations. And I think the more we can get, especially the ones that are complaining about it, the more they get their butts in here, absolutely, then we get more feedback. But I mean, the messaging is out there. They know about these meetings. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, it's like we're all taking time out of our busy schedules to volunteer and be part of this process. So I think that's, you know, I think we make very sound, thoughtful decisions about stuff. And that's really important. It's not just the city doing whatever they want to do without input. The city's getting lots of input, you know, so.
Appreciate that.
All right.
And
Are
then
anything else on event closure or anything else so as far as team updates,
Is that just,
sound like there, unless somebody wants to make any kind of motion on it, and then there could be a.
we had
But the
decided not to
Christmas-
make a motion at this time to change the date for Christmas parade. That's all we've decided. It's still up for discussion. We can readdress it.
Or vote
right
on?
now to get these, recommendations to city council, that would
I
not
think we would
be
just
part
need
of
a
it.
motion on if somebody wants that to go to council. But if
What,
it
the
doesn't-
Christmas, changing the Christmas date?
Yeah, but if there's nothing changing for it, then I don't think we need a motion for it. Yeah. Okay. You know, they
Really missed you.
no, we're glad to have you back.
All right, so team updates, I'll just follow the format here. We'll start with community character. So we had a great meeting this morning, kind of a little think tank meeting with, several of the, shareholders on Seventh about Street Fest.
When you say we, not the community character, the Seventh Avenue.
This was a special meeting. Yeah, so this was not community character
Okay.
meeting. No, it wasn't, but I'm giving you,
Team wasn't invited to that.
It's the Seventh Avenue event, right?
Well, I was
Oh.
on that team.
I know, and I thought at the last meeting we had,
I think it was
last week.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Last week, we talked about it and we set the time and date, last week
Yeah.
for 10 o'clock.
Oh, I thought there was gonna be notifications.
Yeah, well, since it was an informal meeting, I guess it was probably my responsibility to do that and I neglected to do that. So I know. So, but no, it wasn't, that was not a formal, there was no agenda for that meeting. So that was talking to, the purpose of the meeting this morning really was to get as many of the shareholders on Seventh Avenue to have some input as far as the scope and the flow and the content of Street Festival. So I apologize that you weren't invited, Nancy, but I can share with you all what we talked about. No decisions were made. It was just ideas and we've got a kind of an outline.
Yeah, a couple-
Next step would be getting a vendor map and really kind of looking at the footprint and what the closure is going to look like, where the streets are actually going to be closed. What types of vendors, what types of activities. We have a pretty good idea of that layout, timeline, overlap with the farmer's market. So, Street Fest would start at 12 and run 12 to 5. So, as far as, details that need to be worked out is we will be having live music. The lineup needs to be, established. There will be a limited, number of food vendors. But the idea is the purpose of this street festival is to highlight the businesses on Seventh and Seventh Avenue District that were affected by streetscape and kind of like, it's kind of an open house for these businesses that have been there, so.
And it's
Or new
also,
businesses.
So what is the idea? Is it a street
we
closure?
have more of those?
Yeah.
I was gonna pass them, but there's only 3.
Yeah, I don't have enough for everybody. I just printed a couple copies of it. It was just.
I got confused because it wasn't enough.
So
I just printed a handful.
again, there's still a lot of details to work out. We've just kind of got an overall, but this will be modeled loosely around rhythm and blues, meaning a central stage area, several music acts. There will be.
Small state, the rhythm brews.
Yeah, right. But it's a block party. It's a proper block party. So closing the street and kind of like ribbon cutting for.
And the
7th Avenue.
closure would go from,
So we're gonna reproduce the closure that was there for 9 months for the most part. So it'll start at the top of the block, but leaving access to Marcos and Claywood open for vehicles. So the closure will be right at their driveways. And then we'll carry the closure down through Maple, to the intersection of Maple and closing at the train tracks.
Yeah, and so,
the tracks would be the end.
yeah, so the farmer's market, because it'll be happening in the morning. And so what we needed to figure out was how to do the street closure for it. And so basically the farmer's market's gonna shift to cross over Seventh during that day. And so then that's already closed, because the whole street's gonna have to close down in the morning when the farmer's market closes down, because otherwise it'll be impossible to get cars out of there. No matter how many tow companies we have, it'll be very hard because they're just all over the place. And so then the farmer's market vendors that want to stay will be able to stay during the rest of the event. So there's that kind of extension of the farmer's market going on.
And how are the merchants on Seventh reacting to it? Are they before it?
So
So we're there.
We haven't heard any opposition as far as not closing, you mean as far as the street closure or the event itself? I haven't heard any negative feedback about street closure. So, I mean, again, when the street's closed for 9 months, it's like, one more day.
Yeah.
We can take one more day, you know what I mean? But the idea is, yeah, open door kind of thing, try to get as many, try to get as many folks down to kind of, if they haven't already, to really see firsthand what Seventh Avenue looks and feels like. We'll also have potentially 1 or 2 new businesses that, then we'll be able to present there as well. So it's really just a community party. I mean, that's kind of the feel of the event, obviously family friendly. There will be beer, probably not wine, but it's an afternoon event. It's not meant to be like Rhythm Brews and close it out at 10 o'clock at night kind of thing.
And it also has a little bit of a citywide thing because Art League is going to have the reveal of all the banners that will be on Seventh and on Main Street and
Yeah.
on the cross avenues at the same time. So it's.
Yeah, just to kind of give some things to give us stuff to have going on during having Art League banners at the same time.
Is this something that hopes to be repeated or it's just kind of like a one-time?
Well,
So
this is
gonna
a
help.
special.
See how it goes.
Yeah, this is really gonna help us lay the groundwork for future event testing with. So especially from a logistics standpoint, like we're all still trying to like, where are the outlets? Where can we plug in? You know what I mean? So like, we don't even know, the streetlights aren't on yet. And it's like, so I think to answer your question, absolutely, 100%. I don't see any reason why street events should be limited to Main Street, especially with the improvements on Seventh Avenue. So, but as far as the shareholders that have been involved up to this point, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive about it. So, yeah.
Reason that you stop the farmer's market like normal instead of letting it just go a
The,
little longer.
When's that?
it up to where the ones who want to stay will, and then so, because the farms don't even like staying until 1 o'clock. They want to be out by like noon, and so they'll set up closer to Fifth Avenue, and so then that way, when it comes to 1 o'clock, they can pack up and go, and then the ones who want to stay,
Closer to it.
we'll have it. up
7.
where it's blocked off where they have to stay there, because, those farms are gonna stay, the farm vendors.
Yeah, and I also wanted to be accommodated to the Seventh Avenue vendors like Underground Baking, Mini Batch Bakery and Homemade Pasta Noodles. So while they can be at their storefronts, the market will still intertwine with the event.
Dunk tank. That's what I was thinking, dunk tank.
Oh. that'd be
For
good.
charity, of course.
It's.
It is.
I know, it was a blast.
Apparently, Oklahoma did one. not-
Yeah, we did, it was for a block party, wasn't it, that we did ours? Yeah,
Yeah, it was.
it was,
So that's kind of like,
Dunk tank was better than the second one.
that's what I heard. I wasn't there for the second, but I heard the
The
first.
second one felt a little.
You guys have the music acts or have you?
no, we don't. We have some ideas. We definitely want to have a headliner and then there's other opening acts. But to have a draw of someone with some,
The goal is everybody sharing sound equipment or bringing their own. It would save several $1,000s in the budget.
You know, a good act to bring in, like bring everyone down to 7,000.
What?
So,
Laser Lover,
Who?
Laser Lover.
Oh,
They'll bring everyone downtown to 7,000. They actually did their New Year's one at Tryon at the Equestrian Center.
Yeah. But as far as like, and what we talked about this morning, one of the things I think that was really important as far as the Seventh Avenue block itself and how that looks, it's not gonna be like tents lined up and down in the street, it's not meant to be just another
Big farm.
Street
vending
fest.
opportunity for funnel cakes or turkey legs.
it's supposed to promote all the businesses
Right.
being open and accessible.
So all the businesses are gonna be open, we're gonna have some additional exposure or some, at the very least, just, internal promotion of the event for the public, but getting as much stuff out on the sidewalks as possible. On the sidewalks and leaving the street for activities and for pedestrians, so more activities than just more information than vending. So I think the vending is gonna be pretty much
Existing
on Maple-
businesses.
On Maple, from the farmer's market vendors that wanna be part of it, so. But again, we're still very much in the planning phases, so. As far as community character, anything else that we talked about last week?
I have the,
Updates on Seventh Avenue streetscape,
just a couple of
couple little.
wrap up items. Locust is supposed to open up soon. It should have been open up a couple weeks ago, but.
Why is it closed? It's the utilities?
They're saying, yeah, there's, Duke, that's all.
So obnoxious.
We're basically waiting on Duke right now to do the final hookups. for
Um,
the Street lights and the street lamps.
Yeah, so just kind of some wrap up things for that, and then, the other side of the community character team is public art, and they were gonna meet today, but they didn't meet.
Well, I mean, I'm on that committee, but I have one question. They didn't meet because half the people that aren't here are on that. And there were only gonna be three of us sitting and talking. It's slow progress, though. I mean, but that's another story. So they're postponed till next month. I missed it. I was out of town last week, and I can't remember why, but why was facade grants removed from community
So
character?
that was like kind of a delegation thing, more, community characters getting real crowded and economic vitality kind of needed something. We made that decision, but it was expressed.
Who's we? The downtown advisory board?
It was brought to both committees because when we've been talking about what the committees are, community character, public space, economic vitality, private space, buildings, businesses. And so facade grants, since we're talking on economic vitality about tax credits and all of this other stuff, facade grants fit into that.
And it was expressed that if a grant comes that really falls under the purview of community character, that we can kick it back to that subcommittee if it's.
It's not, oh, all right.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's kind of a reorganization of what the committees are doing, because
We expressed earlier that we want the facade grant to kind of go towards more building historic preservation and.
well, that's what it was anyway.
Yeah, it was, but there was a lot of like, we did a couple murals and that was like a special case one and we talked about it and it was, knew it was,
That was
but,
one, yeah.
it just feels like it's more under economic.
So my only question is, it sounds like once 7th Avenue Street Festival is done, all we're gonna do is be talking about public art? Is this
it's a public space, and so
no, I know that should be under community character, but is that all?
this is the update from the meeting from last Tuesday, basically, is what's in this sheet. This isn't the whole plan of upcoming work.
Okay,
Yeah,
No, community character has kind of too much going on this thing.
yeah, because there's South Main Street, Coosa Trail, Above the Mud.
With the public policy, they're looking
I
at.
don't even know what above the, you sent that out. Who got that survey? That was already answered by,
It's for a grant. It was during the holiday. I don't know if they're sending it out. Whenever we send it out.
And I think one of the other issues too is with the grant program getting more financially nuanced, if you will, to have economic vitality, looking at it from an economic standpoint as well, and having a little bit more input and trying to preserve the funding as much as possible and utilize it where it should be utilized, and be more just being a little bit more aware of the funding, where it's coming from and how we're spending it. Because I think going forward, facade grants are gonna be, and they're all gonna be in the max range. Just the cost of doing anything nowadays is kind of crazy. So, again, understanding where the facade grant program began was with, awnings, lots of awnings, and we gotta move past that to now.
Yeah, and just how the committees,
There's gonna be strategic properties that are gonna be looking for full funding if they can get it.
yeah, just how the committees have restructured on that public space, private property. There's no facade grant that's on public space. And so that's where this makes sense on the reorganization of that.
So that was what we talked about in economic vitality. We did the street closures that we talked about first, and then we're moving the facade grants. Big changes to Main Street. I know Scotty's Jewelry, they're rebuilding the interior of that and might have found tenants, but the Jane Asher building, big progress there.
what's happening there?
They're planning to take the front off.
Oh, the facade?
Thank God. Yeah, and it's actually gonna be going to the Historic Preservation Commission tomorrow. So if anybody's interested, at 5 o'clock tomorrow, they meet at City Hall.
What's the new material?
To have the brick that's behind.
Underneath it.
Just-
Mhm. Yeah, they've got on their windows, they've
Pictures?
got some pictures of it.
Yeah,
And Scotty's?
It's just a
They're building it.
renovation of the
Yeah, They're
whole
working it.
building. It's pretty much gutted right now, or it's been gutted.
so is that, what's-
Talking about buildings on Main, does anybody know what's going in the old T9 or?
Cafe
Progress
Bell
of
or
that?
something like that.
It's what?
I spoke to one of the contractors today, actually.
How's the progress?
He said that they are in, I forget what he said, sheetrocking a lot in there right now. A lot of the walls, and they said they were targeting April is what they're targeting right now to hopefully be open.
Is it
French
a
restaurant.
It's, I think that's what it is, like French.
is it local? Is it like a corporate?
There's another place in,
It's Franklin, I
is
think.
that what it is, Franklin? Yeah,
What's it called?
Cafe Rel.
John said, my husband was walking by Tipsy Taco, by the way, and they were getting their last inspection, so finally they're getting closer to opening, so.
Yeah, Tipsy Tacos are closed. I think El Paso might be a little bit further along, like further away from opening, but I'm not sure the details on it, but I know Tipsy Taco did, they got their final building permits.
El Paso Taqueria.
Yeah, the one next to Tipsy Taco, the two taco
I'm surprised.
places right next to each other.
And on Seventh Avenue, the old chicken shack.
They already signed the leases, you know?
And the other one on the corner of Locust Street, getting developed also. And, that's found tenants for the old Daddy's Deals location, and that'll be changing up within the next couple of months, I think.
Did you find tenants?
It's gonna be like a marketplace type thing and incorporate some stuff from like the farmer's market,
It's just another bakery.
and they have like a. In the back, yeah, the
The
kids-
city's killing me. Wait up. Pre-orders are killing me.
Nobody bothers you.
I'm like a mobster.
Yeah.
And did you have anything else?
I think that was it. That was most of it.
I just included our event schedule, what we've got coming up of the events that we do during the year. So that first is kind of the special days for the farmers market and Seventh Avenue, some notes there. Some details from Terry on that. And then these are the rest of our events for the year. Just put it on your calendars, and these are just the ones we do. There's other events, going on for that. And then the last thing that I had for today, I don't think I have anything else in the agenda for it, but the Park Mobile's discount. So I've got some flyers back in the back. We've got for like January, February, March, we've got what we did last year, which was like a free parking for locals. It's really for anybody. So we've got some flyers for that, and we'll send it out with the water bills. The other item got tabled till the next month.
Okay.
Just to give you background, but, the, Park Mobile code, so we've got the free parking codes. And we've got, codes and slips that go with, tickets. So that way you get a free parking session if you get a ticket to download the app, and just more things we can give to people for that. And then one thing I want to kind of see if anybody had any thoughts on is, I had set up to try to test out some type of way for locals to buy a parking pack of coupon codes. I'm not sure how to necessarily do that, but we can do it as kind of a giveaway or promotion like this time of year to get people into some of the businesses of, I think I bought 10 or 20 Park Mobile codes that would be for 10 free parking sessions per person,
What is that, an hour? What's a session? Any?
as long as they pay for it. And so I've got like, these are kind of like, not just one free session, it's like a whole set of them. And so I've been trying to think, and I was actually talking to Lindsay too, about how like a way we could be like a January, February, like in scavenger hunt or something, I don't know, to like figure out a way to give those away for something fun. So we don't necessarily have to come up with that today, but if you have any thoughts or ideas on how we might be able to do something for that, ponder on that.
Would it be against, would it be a legal issue if we made it into a raffle? And then use that money for like Nintendo fund?
You mean like people pay for a raffle ticket, not a free entry?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I know we could do a free raffle,
Yeah,
because we've done that. with
yeah,
the
we're just
Eagles gift.
Go on a-
enter their name in somewhere, and yeah, we could do that.
The goal is to
Or it could be
make it
the,
better for people parking in businesses, maybe give it to the business owners, and then they can hand it to the people that are.
thinking about like the scavenger hunt is like you could hide something in your business, and then if they find it, then you give them the free parking thing.
Cause like, how do you get this to the people that are impacted by parking, that it matters to the most?
Yeah, that's part of me. I want to be like the top 10 people who complain on the internet the most, but then I don't want to like. Reward them.
No. But you could give it to somebody that listens to them complaining or
Yeah.
that person.
Something that we could
Anybody
propose
want
to the visitor center, because they have a whole comprehensive list of all businesses, not just in downtown and Seventh Ave, but in the area. And maybe they could get flyers out that could go on everyone's counter. Scan
Like
the code,
scan a code.
key inside the raffle.
And
If you're interested.
be away,
That way the,
yeah,
that way the people who refuse to come to Main Street, they still
They don't
are
get, they don't get
exposed to
included, yeah.
yeah.
Seventh Ave.
Yeah, that might be something we can do for it, yeah,
Even put it out to the schools.
yeah,
So
just,
the
yeah.
teachers and principals can ship it out to all of their students and their student families and.
Yeah, 10 free parking passes, download the app, use it, whatever. Okay, yeah,
Ryan, how would you capture the demographic you're in?
Most of the people, I'm not thinking about my demographic. I'm thinking about most of the people who complain to me about parking are beyond the age where they have kids in.
That's what, yeah.
Trying to think, how do I get to those people? And I haven't come up with an answer yet.
and the ones who have the biggest problem with the app, which the app is like the easiest way like the best way for people to use it, they just don't want to use it.
Best way for you to communicate.
Well, and so we're rewarding them by giving them free parking, so.
We're trying to reward the businesses, we're trying to, exactly, we're trying
They're
to.
trying to entice.
Or, yeah, bring, entice people to come into the businesses.
I mean, I guess you hit a whole bunch of them when you put it out.
So, yeah, just, yeah, or yeah, we'll do that with the free session for everybody in the utilities. But then maybe I'll have the radio station
Oh,
giveaway.
the radio stations
Yeah.
can do giveaways.
They like that type of stuff.
Okay, well, if anything, if you're wake up in the middle of the night and think of something, then
You give them all to me, I promise I'll hand them out.
So, no,
Every day the Black Bears.
To the heights, but.
You know, a long time. So I'm just curious, I thought we had a big discussion about this and the idea was it's not a good idea to give away free parking. And now is Park Mobile giving
I
us
think
these
the-
free parking?
we were,
Because we're.
yeah, we've talked about not changing don't change the parking during January, February, March, but we can use the coupon codes as a way to incentivize people to come, because then we can track it.
Targeted incentives, yeah.
No.
Yeah, so this is more marketing, that's like policy
Yeah.
change.
That wasn't.
And when you say local, you say within the city limits.
I mean.
That's the goal to.
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
utility bill hits people that live here.
Yeah,
people in the county.
yeah, we say it's local, but really anyone can add that to their phone and get a free parking session.
Hmm.
And I want to mention that, concerning parking at Seventh Avenue, it was discussed last week. About the parking strategies going to remain unchanged on Seventh Avenue. As far as Seventh Avenue itself, it's 2 hours. Signs need to go back up. The signage was taken down with the old light fixtures, so that needs to go back up. There will be untimed parking on the streets. And there is no discussion about paid parking for Seventh Avenue at this time. So the strategy is to keep parking the same and also to work with property owners to develop off-street parking that exists, or potential for additional off-street parking in private lots, that there is additional potential there. And then still a conversation about a piece of land the city might be able to acquire. And that probably at that point would be a paid lot, but that's not in the near future. So right now, the parking strategy on Seventh Avenue is going to remain unchanged, 2 hour limit on Seventh and no time on the side streets.
Yeah, and I brought up with them about bringing the 2 hour back. And one thing that we've been, because it's slower downtown, George is quite proactive on ticketing, and we're getting some not happy feedback on.
He's very
That's-
passionate.
Yeah.
I would like to give positive feedback. I really like the job that he's doing.
Yeah.
I would love to have been in the room for the interview on that one. You know what I mean?
Nobody wants to do that job, but that guy takes his job serious.
Oh my God.
There's nothing wrong with that. He's doing his job and he's efficient at it.
It's black and white, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten tickets, he's doing his job and he's
Yeah.
efficient.
Yeah, he's very efficient.
Yeah, I think some of the complaints that I have heard about that, because I think I know some of the things you're talking about. I mean, that was on them. Like, they're the ones that waited like 10 minutes to like get on their app or whatever it is. He's not standing on a corner saying like, oh, it's parked, let me go. No.
Yeah,
He's
that's-
walking up and down the street like a normal parking enforcement person should be doing.
Yeah, he's
That was on the driver of like waited entirely too long to go to a kiosk or go to their phone.
Yeah, and there's fewer
We
cars.
got me in 3 minutes.
And it should be 1.5, it should have done.
I was standing right there. I looked, I was like, well, what the heck? So I just went with the ticket. Paid the ticket and then got a $2.95
Processing.
The convenience fee.
But he's a nice guy and he'll talk to the people. I heard him, someone come out and be like, I just got the notification. I finished paying and I was walking out. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
He's like, that's fine.
Yeah, he's very personal.
Well, the way people make it sound,
Away from those kind of situations. If you-
Yeah.
As a party, start to think it.
He comes in every day for soup. I watch what he does.
So he's doing his job.
No, he's not sitting there like waiting.
Gestapo.
Yeah, he's not a Gestapo. He's walking up and down the street. He's talking with people. He's explaining kiosks are over there. This is how you do that. Like, he's on top of it. He's doing his
He's doing
job.
his job.
And
And that was one of my
he
biggest
will
gripes
help
was that
them.
we weren't ticketing cars. Cars on Main Street were parked there all day long and weren't getting ticketed. So now they're getting ticketed.
make the
Yeah.
ticket $50 again.
Yeah, but one thing that, especially during this slower time that we are talking about is, because he focuses a lot of his time on Main Street and we still want him focusing his time on Main Street, especially during the busy time. But maybe when on slower times, looking at those, like the 2 hour parking on 7.
Yeah.
And sure, like the places that aren't the metered parking, but the time limited ones, when it's like.
Some are busy.
Like a blow on Main Street, it's not a bunch of cars there kind of thing. So we're trying to figure out as far as like his time for that. 'Cause he's just so darn efficient on it.
Even there, get someone else for the other
He needs
streets.
a helper, yeah. He
Yeah.
needs two of them.
Oh, yeah, I think we're good on that right now, but just to give that little bit of
He's a good guy.
for some of them.
All right, everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all talking about that.
Unless there's anything else, a motion to adjourn.
No, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. He's in Florida.
How about?